Okay, everybody, now we got here and it's time to go and add more details. But before that, I really like to go and take this cylindrical piece that we have here, and I'm gonna rescale that along Y and X. So to do that, I'm going to hit scale and then shift and Z. And that is gonna exclude the Z from calculations so that we have only the Y and X in calculations. And I feel like making this one a little bit smaller would give us a better result. Okay, now this is a better result already, and I'm liking the result. It creates this panel in here and an extra panel right here. And let's go do one patch of detail on this side in here. And I found out that based on this reference, if we have some details, some cuts in here, it would make a very good idea. Okay, we're gonna go here and grab a cylinder. Okay, hold down shift and then drag it out. Okay, now the size is gonna be something like this. And we're not gonna make it too far because later on this is gonna be deleted and baked only on the normal map. So it's gonna be a tiny piece. Apply the scale and rotation, and then I'm gonna take this and drag it in. And let's hit Alt and S to bring the pivot in the center, and then take this one, Shift and N, and recalculate the normals to make the Boolean, the bevel like this. The Boolean and bevel are similar, I always mistake them. So, now let me take this one and take the host, Control minus, and let's take a look at here. It's not so obvious, so we need to first go and make the weighted normal modifier down the list for a better render. And we need to push this one a little bit to capture those details. So like you see that these details are floating in the air, resulting in no rendering at all. So we need to bring this one in just a bit, okay, like so, not too much. Okay, now it's perfect. And now that we are happy with this, we can go and even try to give more bevel to this. Let me go and take this face in here and just try to rescale this so that becomes a little bit more focused and insist on the details. Okay, let me just drag that in. Not too much. Let's just bring this one out, and you should find a middle ground in there so that it renders a lot better. Now that we're taking a look, it's perfect. So now let's drag it, and the rotation and scale have been set to default by now, and we're gonna go and make an array modifier. This time that is gonna be in Z, and I believe that it should be in -Z. So let's zero it out, and this is gonna be 1. So yeah, it's gonna be in -X, -1. This relative offset takes the relative size of the object and tries to array based on that distance. And now that this one has this size, when we put 1, it's going to appear exactly after that. But if I try to make this one a smaller bit, for example, like so, you see, this one tries to appear always after the main one. But if you go, for example, to constant offset, let me go and make this one 0. And we want that to be in X by -2, for example. Okay, -2, this is -2, and doesn't matter if I try to scale this one, make it whatever, always the distance is going to be 2 in between them. So this is the difference between the constant offset and relative offset. So -1 is too close. Let's go for 1.5, and it's okay. So now let's increase the numbers to see the result that we can get. I believe that 8 would do. Okay, 8 is enough. And let me just drag them up. Okay, this is the result that we get. And now let me go to here, and looks like a good detail we have added here. So for now, I'm actually done adding the details to this front piece for now. Later on, we might add details to this one, but now it's time to go and work on this middle piece in here. And now let's see what we have here. Just to summarize of what we have done in here, let's go and activate and deactivate all of the modifiers to see what we have done. So this is the basic block that we started with. And then we went ahead and rounded these corners. And then we brought in this handle line to make a cut for the handle. And then we added a bevel to round out these extra corners. The weighted modifiers to solve everything. And then a boolean with a cube. Let me go to see where this one has been applied. Looks like nothing. And then this one to add this punch in here. And looks like this boolean with cube 012 is doing nothing. So let's go back. I believe that it was this cube in here. So let's go see. Yeah, this one is cube 012 and it's not doing anything in here. So it doesn't matter if I go and delete that. Okay, now let me drag the weighted normal modifier down. Okay, everything's solved in here, except for the fact that we need to go and do one thing in here. We need to apply the keep sharp to make everything sharp again. Okay, now we got this and it's time to go on and add some side paneling. And the one that I'm liking is this one in here. Before that, let's do a side paneling in here. It's going to be a good idea as well. I'm going to do something like this radio on this side. So now let's go and try to start here. And I'm going to start with a cube. So the basic idea in here is going to be doing something like this. And we're going to use this boolean part that, let me show you. You see this boolean part is cutting this panel in here. And then whatever we did and whatever we made, we're going to cut that using that boolean part. But since this boolean part is a bit out of the way in this side, in this left side, I'm making sure that these pieces are not extruding so much out. Okay, scale based on X, and let me drag it out, drag it up, apply the rotation and the scale, and I'm going to add a simple boolean. Simple bevel. A lot of times I just mistake these. So let's add a very, very small bevel. Like so. And now this one let's leave it be. And let's just drag this one in. And after this bevel, I'm adding an array modifier. It's going to be in -z. You see, this is the positive z, which the pointer is directing. And the other way is going to be the -z. So let's go for -1. Too much. Or too little. Now let's go for -2. This one looks better. And now let's see, I believe that we should go for maybe 25 instances. No, 50 instances, okay? Until here. And in order to cut them off, I need to do one thing. Let me take this one, Shift T to duplicate it and isolate it with these. Okay, now you see there are plenty of them that are inside of this boolean piece and some of them that are outside. Okay, now I'm taking this one and this one as the host, Control minus. Let's go the other way. Looks like we should go the other side. I should take this one as the boolean piece and then this panel as the side piece. Control minus. Okay, now it's doing exactly the reverse of what we were expecting from that. Let's go for intersect. And now you see this panel is getting cut in here perfectly. So let me just take them and just drag them out a bit in the surface and then take this one as the host object because I'm going to cut these in. Control minus. And then weighted normal modifier is going to solve those issues. Okay, like so. And now I believe that it's a good result, except the fact that we need to make the inner rectangle to have a little bit of depth variation from that. So now, because this one is only one instance and it's real time and it's non-destructive, and it means that every change that I do to this instance, you see, these are all cyber instances. They are not real. Everything that I do on this is going to be applied on all of them, even the bevel and the array boolean, everything. So this is it. Let me take this one and I'm going to rescale that in Z a bit. Okay, and then we scale that in Z just a bit. Let's do a bit of more scaling in Z. Okay, like so. And then apply the bevel and boolean, not apply, I mean to show them. Okay, now everything is in here. Let's go back. And now you see the form is a little bit more prominent. Okay, and this is very good. And I'm happy with it. And let's take it, and you see the only place that they are getting shown is based on that object that we have here to cut that. And it means that if you go and try to move this, it's going to be changed on real time. Of course, this is the piece that is driving the boolean on this one. Let's deselect that and do another selection. Again, that one, I don't know. You see, there are two booleans in there. One is this one and one is this one. So just Control Z to go back. And now we need to cut a panel on this side. And that is going to be so easy. Still, we're going to bring in a cube, and you can hold down Shift to be an exact cube, but we want this one to be a rectangle piece. Okay, like so. And let's just eyeball this to be in the center. Okay, apply the rotation and the scale, and I'm going to add a boolean in this. Excuse me, not a boolean, the bevel. Every time I do that mistake. Okay, 1. And let's add some more vertices. And I'm going to take this, drag it in, and take this one and Control minus. Okay, now let's take a look at it. It's giving us a good result, but we need to do the same thing that we did on the other piece. Let's take this, and I'm going to scale that first in Z to add more profile to that. So just a bit in Z, not so much, and just a little bit in Y as well to make the profile a little bit better. Okay, after this one, I'm going to add an array modifier. Okay, array, it's going to be in Z this time, not negative Z. It's going to be in positive Z. Okay, let's make it 1. But you see that in here, it's very compressed. So we need to do all ones in there. But one thing is, I noticed that these panel lines are smaller and smaller in Z. So I'm taking that. Let's up something like this. Okay, now I'm taking this one as an object. And instead of scaling, let me go in edit mode and take this one and bring it down in Z just a bit to make such a panel cut. Okay, now let's drag it in, bevel. Okay, and then the array modifier. And now you see there's a bit of distancing in between them. And it's okay. So you see this one is bigger than this one. So let's see, 25 instances is okay. But I need to take this one and drag it down so that it starts right from the bottom piece in here. And let's add one more instance. I want that to match the side, exactly these panel lines. Okay, now we got it. Let's take it, and I'm gonna bring it up in Z, G, and Z so that they match up like so. Okay, now let me take a look at it. And now you see we're getting somewhere. We are actually adding details, and we are happy with these details. And one more thing that we could add is a little bit of panel cut in here. And the panel cut is going to be something like this. It's going to be a very, very tiny panel cut. Okay, let me bring in a cube. And this cube is going to be very, very tiny, like so. Okay, I believe that this one respects the normals. I do not want to respect the normals, or either way, I want the normals from this one. I do not want to have any rotation value in there. Okay, now take this one. And now I'm going to scale that in Y. I want very, very small cube. Okay, apply the rotation and the scale, and take this one, Control minus. Okay, you see now this one has cut into the surface. But now we need to go drag the weighted normal modifier down. Okay, like so. And now there's some change that we need to do on this, and that is taking the Boolean piece and adding a solidify modifier. Now the solidify is too much. Let's apply the scale and set this one to 0. Okay, brought it back, and 0.1. Now you see this panel cut in here. It keeps the surrounding geometry, but it tries to cut that shape in here. Okay, I feel like I'm happy with it, but we can drag this one out a bit and try to scale that in Y to make that panel a little bit better. Okay, because this is a tiny object. Now let's apply the scale on that, and after that let's add a bevel. Okay, and let's do 0.1. 0.1 is too much. 0.05, 0.002 I believe should do. Okay, after some testing I found out that this value works. Okay, now I'm going to add an array modifier. Okay, it disappeared, and that is because the array is going in X, but we want that to go in Y. Okay, it's going to be in Y, but let's see in which direction. It's going to be in positive Y. So let's add 2. Okay, and add some more variations. Okay, now you see the sci-fi thing panel cut in here. Perfect. But we could go on this solidify and try to make it a bit smaller. Okay, like so. But overall, we could drag this one to the side a bit and eyeball it to make sure that it's exactly in the center of the object. Just a bit more. Okay. We could try to add this one on the top side as well. So that requires a mirror modifier. So let's bring the mirror modifier. Okay. And that is going to be along Z. Okay. Not X. It's going to be along Z. But let's deactivate that for now and make the object to be this one. Okay. Now Z, let's flip it. And the reason that it's not working, I believe that is because of the pivot of this one. So now you see the pivot is exactly in here. We want this one to be in the center. So Alt and S to bring that in center. And now I take this and let's go hit Z again. And now it's based on cube. Let's show it. Okay, now you see after changing the pivot, it's showing up exactly in here perfectly. So when you're using an object as a mirror, you really need to take a look at where the pivot of that object is placed. And let me see if I could mirror these along X as well to appear on this side. So let's go and take the Boolean pieces, and it's gonna be along X. So, okay. And you see with only one click, we're able to transform these to the other side. It adds some much more detail to there. Okay, now I'm having in mind to go and create an audio system in here. We're gonna create some audio plugs and maybe some controllers based on the mixer that we looked at earlier. But since that is gonna take a lot of time, I'm gonna leave it for another lesson. But before that, it's good to go and in this very lesson, create a strap on this side. It's going to have a locker, and then we're gonna cloth simulation the strap to hang from here. And I'll took that from this reference. You see, it kind of has that strap, and we're gonna model that. Okay, now before making the strap using the cloth modifier, let's create a locker for it. We're gonna go and hold down Shift, drag it out. Now I'm going to scale that in X like so, and I do not want to make this too far off from the actual surface. So let's bring that, eyeball it, so that it's relatively in the center. And then just like always, I'm going to make it a smooth and based on 30 degrees. And now I'm going to take a duplicate because I'm going to first carve in the carver in here. So while I have that backup, I'm taking this one and this piece, Control minus, and then just drag it above the weighted normal modifier so that we're good to go. And now it's time to go and drag this one out. And let's see, looks like there's something off with this. And let's apply the rotation and the scale. And in order to capture the details better, I'm going in and just selecting this one, Control B, to add the bevel so that it captures the highlights a little bit better. Okay, like so. And then I'm taking this one and dragging that in X. Okay, like so. So that we create that reverse bevel just like always to capture more of that highlights around the edges. So while having this one selected in face mode, I'm hitting Shift and N and then recalculate the normals inside. Then Control B to add that reverse bevel. Okay, now we need to Control plus once and let's do once more, or let's select that in its entire form. And now we can go and try to bring this even more to capture all of those details. Okay, now you see this one has a little bit of more detail. It looks like it has been carved into the place, and we have that backup piece that we kept for this use. Okay, now let's bring the pivot in here. Just go select this face, Alt and S to bring the pivot in here, and I'm going to drag it out just like so. We only need something to capture the details, so there's not actually a point in leaving a lot of geometry in here. That is going to be wasted. Okay, now this is too much. Let's scale in X, and now it's good. Okay, apply the rotation and the scale, and now I'm going to carve some pieces in here. So let me go and bring a cube, and I'm going to make this cube very, very small until it matches the exact shape that we have here. Like so. And then I'm gonna select both of them, Alt and A, to align them together perfectly. Now let's select this one, and since this one is perfectly centered, it's going to be awesome for the purpose. And now in Z, once more in X, and it's good. So now let's apply the rotation and the scale, and I'm gonna Boolean that. Control minus. Now let's go back, and I'm taking this. And since this one is destructive, I can go Control B to add a lot of segments in here. And if we go back, you see now this is the shape that we get, and exactly what I wanted from that. And then again, I'm going to make it mirror upside down in here. So we easily go in here and add a mirror modifier. Again, we're gonna make this one the pivot point. So the pivot point is exactly in the center in Z, no matter where it is in X, because we're gonna mirror that in Z. So now let's select this one and mirror that in Z. Okay, first we need to set the object to this one. Okay, perfect. And then we get this shape. Let's go back and try to see how it works with the piece. I'm happy with it. But we could go and try to rotate this 90 degrees. But if I take the piece and rotate it, you see nothing happens because the Boolean pieces stay on the same place, and we do not want that. So in order to move them together, we could go select the Boolean pieces and this one and move them together. Okay, like so, but it doesn't work because the pivot and all of those things are different. So let's take this. I'm gonna apply the mirror And now since this one is the Boolean, I'm going to attach that to this one without actually attaching to geometry. So we're going to use the parent system. We're going to make this one the children and the locker to be the parent. So I'm taking this one and this one as the active object, Control P, and set parent to object keep transform. So now every time we go and take a transform change on this one, you see all of the Boolean pieces work with it and move with it as well as rotating that. You see, now these share the same pivot as this one. We could go and rotate these individually, but the same thing happens when we go and try to move the parent. All of these children are going to move with it. Okay, now it's good about this one. And let's go take these and push them a little bit further. Okay, because I'm going to carve a cylindrical shape in here. Okay, let's bring the cylinder and I'm going to hold down shift and make it a perfect cylinder. But looks like we have a little bit of angle variation. Let's set this one to 0 and 0 this one out as well, because we were sampling from a wrong normal. Okay, now it's a good one. Just like always, we're going to add some bevel to this to capture some more highlights. Okay, Control minus. And you see everything that we do here is based on Boolean workflow. And it's non-destructive and you can go change whatever you want to do with it without any problem. Okay, now I'm selecting this. And let me select these two faces. Okay, Shift and N, recalculate, Control B to bevel, like so, but I'm only going to add one small bevel. And now I'm going to bring this one out in here. Okay, like so, to capture these details. Of course, a lot of this geometry later on is going to be removed and only rely on the normal map. Okay, probably the same, but we need to drag this one out a bit. Okay, like so. But now using this method, we're not capturing these details. So another way would be to go and rescale this until here so that we get a full capture, and then go on the locker piece and after all of them add a bevel so that it captures all of the geometry. So let's go for the amount of segments. Okay, see now we have more captures in here. And for the faceted shading, it doesn't matter actually. Let's go shade smooth on this, or the normals, and then on these pieces as well, let's go for shade smooth, and then based on 30 degrees. And now this is more or less flat, and let's go about this one as well. This piece that goes in needs to be smooth. Okay, now it's all right. Then we can go and try to simulate the strap. So for the simulation, first we need to make the base mesh. We need to simulate something like this shape. I'm going to make it fly and hang to create something like this. So it would be easy to create that. All you need to do is adding preference and going to add-ons, just search for extra. And there are a couple of options. One is add curve and add mesh. Both of them are useful, but in this time we're going to use add mesh. So we go to mesh, and the only thing that we need to add is adding a single vertex. Okay, now it's in here. It's a single vertex, and we're gonna start our way from this one. So we go to edit mode and try to rough out the shape of a hanging strap. Just a shape that represents what we want. Okay, let's take these two, and then I'm gonna take them, merge by distance, okay, so that they get merged perfectly. So now we need to hit Alt and S to bring the pivot right in here, and then let's apply the scale and rotation on it. So we need to go on the edge mode, in the edit mode, right click and N to create a face, and then inset to create some geometry for it. Okay, now in edit mode, I'm selecting this face and removing that. Okay, now this is going to be the shape for the strap. And for the ease of use, I'm going to select these top vertices and Alt and S in here to bring that as the pivot. So now this one is optional. You can do that or you can remove it. I'm going to go and add some segments to make these just in the same threshold of size. See, I do not want some of them to be bigger than other ones and some of them smaller ones. Okay, now we need to apply the cloth simulation to this one, but before that we need some geometry to work with. And the first thing that we need to add is the solidify, because now this is a simple plane, it's not gonna work. So we go to solidify modifier. Okay, now let's set it to 0.1. No, this isn't that much. Okay, 1 is okay for now. Later on we could go and try to change it. And let's set the mode to complex. Sometimes it's better to create complex geometry with it. Okay, after this one, we're going for subdivision surface, because for the cloth simulation, we need a lot of subdivision. And I'm keeping this one non-destructive. You see, we can go try to change everything what we wanted with no problem. So on this one, right click on shade smooth, disable the optimization display to see how many geometry and how much geometry you have in here. Okay, now I'm having this one, I'm going to do the cloth simulation. So now let's go see how the cloth simulation works. So there are a couple of ways to activate that. The first thing is going into physics properties, and in here you want to select the cloth. And another way is going to add a modifier and add a cloth. So both of them just work the same. And this one needs the timeline to play the animation. So now let's play, and you see the cloth starts to fall off because the gravity is turned on in here. If we go in here to field weights, you see it has gravity. So we need to exclude some pieces of this geometry from getting affected by this gravity and all of that. And we're gonna use that or create that by using the vertex data. So we go in edit mode, and you see we still get that plane that we had there. Now I'm going to select this top one, this two, and I'm gonna go in the object data properties, and in here we have a vertex group. So add a vertex group, assign. Okay, now let's select deselect to see. So it works just fine. And now we need to exclude these from getting calculated in the physics properties. So you can either go to physics tab and get the cloth simulation, or you can go to modifier tab, hit this icon and go to the same settings. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is opening the shape. And in here you see pin group. This is going to pin this object or pin these vertices in here so that they stay on the place and everything else gets calculated. So now let's go select the default vertex group that we did. And now let's go play the animation. And you see everything moves but these vertices that we created. And it easily creates a strap for us. Very easy and really nothing actually complex. Okay, now let's take a look at it, and I'm happy with it. Of course, you can go and try to change some settings. For example, quality of steps, let's set it to 15. You can go play with most of these settings to see what you get. And the thing is that you need to go back, set this one back, and then play the animation more. And because now we increased the quality, it's getting a little bit longer to create. But you see, this one has been pinned in here and everything else moves so that we get this effect going on. So leave it until the frame rate that you like, and I feel like this one is okay. And now this is non-destructive, but there's something. If you move this, you see everything gets reset to the default place. So in order to bake that, you want to apply the cloth modifier by hitting Control and A to apply that, or you can go and try to bake the animation. So the second way is going into the cache. In here, you see we have a timeline in here, and it has by default 250 frames. We do not want all of that. So the simulation start is gonna be 1, and the end, let's set it to 90. Okay, and then you can hit bake, it's going to take a bit of time to calculate to the frame 90, and then it will give you the animation. So I'm going to pause and get back to you. Okay, now the animation is baked, and now if I try to move or play, you see we get a perfect animation. Okay, now I'm happy with this. And now in order to bake the animation and prevent that from moving and making that a static object that later on we can UV or do whatever we want to do with it, we can go and Control A on this. Okay, because that was not the first modifier. It's given us those problems. So in order to fix that, we go and do the classic way, delete the bake, and in here just go and apply. So it's not giving us that result either. So let's go back and just try to rebake the animation by playing. And now this is real time. Everything that we see in here is going to be applied. So I'm going to let it play for some time and get back to you when I'm happy at the results. Okay, around this frame looks all right. And then you can go apply the cloth modifier. Okay, but before that, we need to go and apply the solidify, subdivision, and then the cloth modifier to get the same result. Okay, now that I have this and the pivot is exactly in here, we can go rotate this by 90 degrees and try to place it somewhere in here. Okay, and there might be some problems in the simulation. If we go to the face orientation, you see these problems happening. And that was because of the fact that we didn't have enough thickness on this cloth. So let's go back, Control Z a couple of times. Now on the solidify modifier, I need to set this one to 3. Okay, now it has enough thickness and we can work with it. Let's set the offset to 0. Okay, and add one more layer of subdivision. Now let's go again on the same quality, the same everything has been happened. And now there's an option called self-collision. This is preventing the inner geometry to get accidentally in way of each other and creating that ugly red result, but it's going to take a lot of more time to calculate. But let's see how we can do about this one. I'm going to play and get back to you when I'm happy with the results. Okay, around this frame, everything looks all right, except for maybe a couple of issues. Let's go back. I believe this frame or the next one might be a good one as well. Okay, like so. And now we do not get any major problems. And if we had any problem, we will fix that later on, maybe in ZBrush or something. Okay, now that we are happy with this, let's go for this one and apply the solidify, subdivision, and then the cloth modifier. Okay, now we get that. And let's go in here, bring everything back. I'm going to select this one and place the pivot in here. Okay, now let's try to eyeball this to the exact same place in here. And now let's go take it, and I'm gonna go bring everything back. Okay, now that I'm taking this, let's bring that exactly in the center. Okay, I'm going to select these vertices, and in order to move all of the pieces with it, I'm going to go for proportional editing. So now you see every time that I move this one, all of the pieces are going to be moved with it. And the same thing goes for scaling as well. So when I'm having that, just hit scale for scaling that, and using your mouse wheel, you can try to increase that threshold or try to decrease that. Okay, you see, this is the proportional editing tool that we have. I only want that to be limited to this top part. Okay, now you see it's getting placed in here, and more or less we're getting the same result. Okay, but we need to rotate this 90 degrees to match that. Okay, but this one isn't working. Let's go rotate that again, 90 degrees. And I need to place this on a place that makes sense. Maybe on this side. And let's try to take it and rescale it until we get this. Okay, Now this one looks a bit too space consuming. I'm going to scale that in Y. Okay, like so. And one more thing that I can do is confirming this one a little bit to this side. Okay, we're gonna go in, and while having the proportional editing, we could go and try to move these pieces with it. Okay, let's take them. And this one as the last final piece. And then let's take them and drag them out, just like so, in here. Okay, we created a strap for it as well, using the cloth simulation. And for the last one, in this lesson, we could go take this and try to move it in place just a bit. So the first thing, we need to decrease the size of the circle and try to roughly place it in here. Okay, now this is good and I'm happy with it. And I'll see you in the next one where we go and try to create this audio system in here. Okay, see you there.